The old ship floated in space, its metal skin dull and pitted. It looked small next to the sleek research vessel that hovered nearby. Dr. Zix, the lead archaeologist, stared at it through the view screen. His antenna twitched with excitement. "Scan it again," he ordered. His assistant, a young Galox named Veed, nodded and tapped at the controls. "Still the same, Doctor," Veed said. "The ship is made of materials we can't identify. And the energy readings, they don't make sense." Dr. Zix's team had found the ship by accident. They were looking for ruins on a dead planet when their sensors picked up a faint signal. The signal led them to a hidden hangar deep underground. Inside, they found not one but 5 strange ships. Now, after days of careful work, they had brought one of the ships into space. It was their first chance to study it properly. "Let's take a closer look," Dr. Zix said. He put on his spacesuit and floated out of the airlock. Veed and 2 other team members followed. As they got closer to the old ship, Dr. Zix felt a shiver of excitement. This was why he became an archaeologist, to unlock the secrets of the past. The ship was not pretty. Its hull was covered in strange symbols and what looked like burn marks. But there was something about its shape that spoke of power and speed. "Over here," called one of the team. "I think I found a way in." They gathered around a section of the hull that seemed different from the rest. After some searching, they found a hidden panel. Dr. Zix pressed it, and with a hiss, a door slid open. Inside, the ship was dark and dusty. Their helmet lights cast long shadows as they moved through narrow corridors. Everything was alien, from the shape of the doors to the odd angles of the walls. "This technology," Veed whispered, "it's like nothing I've ever seen." Dr. Zix nodded. "It's advanced, but in ways we don't understand. Look at this." He pointed to what seemed to be a control panel. No holograms, no neural interfaces, just buttons and levers. They made their way to what had to be the bridge. Here, the strangeness of the ship was even more clear. There were chairs, but they were the wrong shape for any known species. Screens and devices of unknown purpose covered the walls. "Doctor," Veed called, "I think I found something." He was standing by a large cylinder in the center of the room. "It looks like a power source, but the readings are off the charts." Dr. Zix joined him, studying the cylinder. "Incredible," he muttered. "If I'm reading this right, this ship has more power than our entire fleet." Just then, there was a low hum. Lights flickered on around them, and the ship seemed to come to life. "What did you do?" Dr. Zix asked, alarmed. "Nothing," Veed said. "I just touched this panel here and—" He was cut off as a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a star map, but not one they recognized. Strange symbols floated next to different points of light. "Is that a language?" one of the team asked. Dr. Zix stared at the symbols, his mind racing. I think it might be, but not one I've ever seen before." They spent hours exploring the ship, each new discovery adding to their excitement and confusion. When they finally returned to their own vessel, Dr. Zix knew they had found something big. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he told Veed. "Tell them we've made a discovery that could change everything we know about the past." As Veed sent the message, Dr. Zix looked back at the ancient ship. Who had built it? Why was it hidden? And what other secrets did it hold? He didn't know the answers yet, but he was sure of one thing. The galaxy would never be the same once this news got out. Little did Dr. Zix know, he was right, but not in the way he expected. The discovery of these ships would indeed change the galaxy. It would bring mockery, danger, and finally, a revelation that would shake the foundations of galactic society. The age of the ancient warships had begun. News of Dr. Zix's discovery spread fast. Within days, the story was all over the galaxy. Everyone was talking about the strange ships found on the dead planet. At first, there was a lot of excitement. People from all over wanted to see the ships. But then, things started to change. The Galactic Council sent their top scientists to study the ships. These were the smartest beings in the galaxy. They had built huge cities in space and could travel faster than light. They thought they knew everything. But when they looked at the old ships, they laughed. "Look at this," said Professor Yulks, a famous engineer. He was holding up a piece of the ship's engine. "It's so simple, so primitive." Other scientists agreed. They said the ships were interesting, but not important. "These ships are like toys compared to what we have now," one of them said on a popular news show. "They're so old, they're practically useless." Dr. Zix tried to argue. He said there was more to learn. But no one listened. Soon, the mockery spread. People made jokes about the ancient junk and the silly old ships. They said Dr. Zix was wasting everyone's time. Even Dr. Zix's team started to doubt, all except Veed, his young assistant. "I don't understand," Veed said one day. They were in the lab, looking at data from the ships. "How can they dismiss this so easily? There's so much we don't understand about these ships." Dr. Zix sighed. "They see what they want to see, Veed. They think because it's old, it must be simple." But Veed wasn't giving up. He kept studying the ships, even when others laughed at him. One day, he made a strange discovery. He was looking at the ship's computer when he found something odd. "Dr. Zix," he called. "Come look at this." Dr. Zix hurried over. On the screen was a symbol they had seen before, but this time, it was different. "It's changing," Dr. Zix said, surprised. As they watched, the symbol shifted and changed. It was like it was alive. "What does it mean?" Veed asked. Dr. Zix shook his head. "I don't know, but it's not something our technology can do." They tried to tell others about what they had seen, but no one believed them. "More fairy tales," said Professor Yulks when he heard. "Next, you'll tell us these ships can fly themselves." The mockery got worse. Now, people weren't just laughing at the ships. They were laughing at Dr. Zix and Veed too. But something strange was happening. The more people mocked the ships, the more the ships seemed to respond. Lights would flicker when no one was around. Doors would open and close on their own. Once, Veed swore he heard a sound like laughter coming from the ship's computer. "It's like they know," Veed said to Dr. Zix one night. "Like they're aware of what's happening." Dr. Zix nodded slowly. "I felt it too. But who would believe us if we told them?" They decided to keep their observations secret. They would study the ships in private, away from the mockery and laughter. What they didn't know was that their decision would save their lives. Because something was coming. Something that would make the whole galaxy wish they had paid more attention to those primitive old ships. The mockery was about to end, and the true power of the ancient warships was about to be revealed. In the quiet of the lab, as Dr. Zix and Veed worked, one of the ship's screens flickered to life. A message appeared, written in a language no one in the galaxy had seen for thousands of years. It said, "Activation sequence initiated. Prepare for combat." The age of laughter was over. The age of war was about to begin. Dr. Zix and Veed were working late in the lab. They had been trying to understand the strange message on the ship's screen for days. Suddenly, Veed shouted, "Doctor, I found something." Dr. Zix hurried over. On Veed's screen was a symbol they had seen before, but now it was different. It had changed into a word they could read. "Human," Dr. Zix read out loud. "What does that mean?" Veed typed quickly on his computer. It's a species, Doctor. An extinct species." They looked at the information about humans. It wasn't much. Humans had lived a long time ago. They had been from a planet called Earth. But they had died out thousands of years ago. But why would their ships be here? Dr. Zix wondered. As they dug deeper, they found more surprises. The humans hadn't just lived on one planet. They had traveled to many stars. "Look at this," Veed said. He showed Dr. Zix a map. It showed hundreds of stars where humans had lived. Dr. Zix was shocked. But that's impossible. How could such a short-lived species travel so far? They worked through the night, learning more about humans. The more they learned, the more amazed they became. Humans had been creative. They had made art and music. They had explored and invented. And they had built ships. Amazing ships that could do things even modern ships couldn't do. We have to tell someone. Veed said, "This changes everything." But Dr. Zix shook his head. Who would believe us? Everyone thinks these ships are junk. Just then, there was a loud noise. The main screen of the old ship lit up. Words appeared, scrolling fast. Warning. Veed read. Enemy approaching. Activate defenses. Dr. Zix and Veed looked at each other, confused. What enemy? Veed asked. Before Dr. Zix could answer, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed everywhere. What's happening? Veed shouted over the noise. Dr. Zix ran to the main computer. His eyes widened as he read the screen. It's an attack. A huge fleet of unknown ships is entering the system. They rushed to tell the Galactic Council, but when they arrived, they found chaos. The council chamber was full of scared aliens. On the big screen, they could see hundreds of strange ships appearing out of nowhere. Our weapons don't work on them, someone shouted. Their technology is too advanced, cried another. In the middle of all this, Professor Yolks saw Dr. Zix and Veed. He came over, looking angry. "This is your fault," he yelled. "You brought attention to our system with your stupid old ships." But Dr. Zix wasn't listening. He was watching the screen. The enemy ships looked familiar. "Veed," he said quietly, "don't those ships look like bigger versions of our human ships?" Veed's eyes widened. "You're right. But how?" Just then, the old human ship's computer voice spoke. Everyone in the room froze. "Human design defense systems ready," it said. "Awaiting activation command." The room was silent. Then everyone turned to look at Dr. Zix and Veed. Professor Yolks spoke first. What does that mean?" Dr. Zix took a deep breath. "It means," he said, "that those primitive ships we found might be our only hope." He turned to the council. "We need to activate those ships. Now." For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the head of the council nodded. As Dr. Zix and Veed rushed back to the lab, they knew everything had changed. The humans, a species everyone had forgotten, were about to save the galaxy. And it all started because two curious scientists didn't give up on some old, useless ships. Dr. Zix and Veed raced back to the lab. The fate of the galaxy now rested on these old ships they had found. "How do we activate them?" Veed asked, breathless. Dr. Zix shook his head. "I don't know, but we have to try everything." They entered the main ship. It was dark and quiet. But as soon as they stepped inside, lights began to flicker on. "Welcome back," a voice said. It was the ship's computer. Dr. Zix and Veed looked at each other in shock. The ship had never spoken to them before. "We need your help," Dr. Zix said to the ship. "There's an attack. Can you defend us?" There was a pause. Then the ship's voice spoke again. "Initiating full system activation. Please stand by." Suddenly, the whole ship came to life. Screens lit up everywhere. Strange symbols flashed across them. "What's happening?" Veed asked. Before Dr. Zix could answer, a hologram appeared in front of them. It showed a human figure. "Greetings," the hologram said. "I am the AI of this vessel. How may I assist you?" Dr. Zix and Veed were amazed. They had never seen an AI this advanced. "We're under attack," Dr. Zix explained quickly. "Can you help us?" The AI nodded. "Of course. That is why we were created. Activating defense systems now." Outside, the 5 old ships began to move. They rose from the ground, glowing with strange energy. In the council chamber, everyone watched in awe. The old ships, which they had mocked, were now floating in space. They looked powerful and ready for battle. Back on the main ship, Dr. Zix and Veed watched as the AI showed them the ship's capabilities. "This is incredible," Veed said. "These ships can do things our modern ships can't even dream of." The AI explained how the ships worked. They used something called quantum entanglement for instant communication. Their weapons were based on manipulating gravity itself. "But how?" Dr. Zix asked. "This technology is far beyond anything we have now." The AI smiled. Humans were very creative. They thought of things in ways other species didn't. Just then, an alarm sounded. The enemy fleet was getting closer. "We need to act now," the AI said. "Are you ready to defend your galaxy?" Dr. Zix and Veed looked at each other. They were scientists, not warriors, but they knew they had to try. "Yes," Dr. Zix said. "Tell us what to do." The AI began to guide them. It showed them how to control the ships, how to use the weapons. As they learned, Dr. Zix realized something. "These ships," he said, "they're not just weapons. They're teaching tools." Veed nodded. The humans didn't just want to protect. They wanted to share their knowledge. The AI confirmed this. Humans believed in preparing future generations. These ships contain all of human knowledge and technology. Dr. Zix was amazed. The species everyone had forgotten had left behind the greatest gift imaginable. Suddenly, a new alarm sounded. The enemy ships were entering the system. "It's time," the AI said. "Are you ready to show the galaxy what these primitive ships can do?" Dr. Zix took a deep breath. He looked at Veed, who nodded bravely. "We're ready," Dr. Zix said. As the 5 ships moved into position, Dr. Zix thought about how wrong everyone had been. These ships weren't useless relics. They were the most advanced technology the galaxy had ever seen. And now, they were about to save everyone who had mocked them. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin. And thanks to the forgotten humans and their amazing ships, there was hope. The sky above the planet turned dark. Thousands of enemy ships appeared, blocking out the stars. They were huge, black, and scary. In the control room of the human ship, Dr. Zix and Veed watched nervously. The AI's voice was calm as it spoke. "Enemy fleet detected. 5,000 ships approaching. Weapons charged and ready." Dr. Zix looked at the small group of 5 human ships. They seemed so tiny compared to the huge enemy fleet. "Can we really win against so many?" Veed asked, his voice shaking. The AI answered, "The odds are in our favor. Human technology is superior." Just then, a message came from the Galactic Council. Professor Yulks's face appeared on the screen. He looked scared. "Dr. Zix, the enemy fleet is hailing us. They want to talk." Dr. Zix nodded. "Put them through." The screen changed. A strange, dark figure appeared. Its voice was deep and threatening. "Creatures of this galaxy," it said, "we are the void. Your time is over. Surrender now or be destroyed." Dr. Zix stepped forward. "We will not surrender. This is our home. We will defend it." The Void Leader laughed. "With what? Your primitive weapons are no match for us." Dr. Zix smiled. "We'll see about that." The communication ended. The Void ships started to move. "They're attacking," Veed shouted. The AI's voice was steady. "Initiating defense protocols. Activating shields." The 5 human ships glowed with a strange light. A huge energy field spread out from them, covering the whole planet and the nearby space. The Void ships fired their weapons. Huge beams of energy shot towards the planet. But when they hit the shield, they just disappeared. Everyone in the control room gasped. The shields had worked. "Impossible." Professor Yulks's voice came over the comm. "How did you do that?" "Human technology," Dr. Zix said simply. The battle had begun. The Void ships kept firing, but nothing could break through the shield. "We can't just defend forever," Veed said. "We need to fight back." The AI agreed. Offensive systems ready. Shall we engage? Dr. Six took a deep breath. He had never been in a battle before, but he knew they had to act. Yes, he said. Engage the enemy. The human ships started to move. They were fast, much faster than they looked. They zipped between the huge void ships, firing strange weapons. Where the human weapons hit, void ships just disappeared. They didn't explode. They just vanished. What kind of weapons are these? Veed asked, amazed. The AI explained, quantum displacement technology. It moves matter to another dimension. The battle raged on. The void had numbers, but the human ships had better technology. For every human ship the void damaged, 100 void ships vanished. But the void kept coming. More and more ships appeared. It seemed endless. There's too many, Veed cried. We can't keep this up forever. Dr. Zix knew he was right. They needed a plan. He turned to the AI. Is there anything else these ships can do? Any secret weapons? The AI was quiet for a moment. Then it said, there is one thing, but it's dangerous. It could destroy everything if not used carefully. Dr. Six looked at the battle raging outside. The void ships were still coming. The galaxy was in danger. He made his decision. Tell us about this weapon. Whatever it is, we need to use it. The AI began to explain. As Dr. Six listened, his eyes grew wide. This weapon was beyond anything he had imagined. It could save them all, or it could destroy everything. As the battle raged on, Dr. Six knew they were about to take the biggest risk in the history of the galaxy, and it all depended on technology from a species everyone had forgotten. The fate of the galaxy now rested in human hands. Dr. Six looked at the AI, his eyes wide. Tell us about this weapon. We need to use it now. The AI's voice was serious. It's not just a weapon. It's a network. These 5 ships can combine into one megaship. Veed gasped. Is that even possible? With human technology, yes, the AI said. But it's risky. If it fails, all 5 ships will be destroyed. Dr. Six thought hard. The void ships were still coming. They had to do something. Let's do it, he said. Combine the ships. The AI began the process. Outside, the 5 human ships started to move. They flew close to each other. Suddenly, there was a bright flash. When it faded, everyone gasped. Where there were 5 small ships before, now there was one huge ship. It was bigger than anything they had ever seen. Combination complete, the AI said. All systems online. Inside the new megaship, Dr. Zix and Veed looked around in awe. The control room was huge now. New screens and controls were everywhere. This is amazing, Veed said. But how do we control it? The AI spoke again. You don't. I do. This form requires more processing power than organic brains can handle. Dr. Six nodded. Okay, AI. It's up to you now. Save us. The megaship began to move. It was fast, despite its size. It flew straight at the Void fleet. The Void ships fired everything they had, but their weapons couldn't even scratch the megaship. Then the human ship fired back. A huge beam of energy shot out. It cut through the Void fleet like it was nothing. Hundreds of Void ships disappeared in seconds. The rest tried to run away. But the human ship wasn't done. It chased after them, firing more weapons. Some weapons made Void ships disappear. Others made them stop working. And some even turned Void ships against each other. In the control room, Dr. Zix and Veed watched in amazement. I can't believe it, Veed said. We're winning. The AI's voice was calm. Human weapons were designed to end conflicts quickly. Minimal loss of life, maximum effectiveness. Dr. Zix nodded. He was starting to understand why humans had been so special. The battle continued. The Void fleet, which had seemed endless before, was now running out of ships. Finally, only one Void ship was left. It was the biggest one, probably the leader's ship. The human megaship approached it. The AI spoke, hailing the void ship, offering chance to surrender. On the screen, the void leader appeared again. It looked scared now. How? It asked. How did you defeat us? We conquered 1,000 galaxies. Dr. Zix stepped forward. You made a mistake. You thought old meant weak. But sometimes old means tested, proven. These human ships are the best technology in the universe. The void leader was quiet for a moment. Then it said, we surrender. Please, spare us. Dr. Zix looked at the AI. Can we trust them? The AI replied, human policy was always to offer peace, but to be ready if it was rejected. Dr. Zix nodded. Okay, we accept your surrender, but you must leave this galaxy and never return. The void leader agreed. Soon, the last void ship was gone. The battle was over. They had won. Cheers erupted from the Galactic Council communication. Everyone was celebrating. But Dr. Zix and Veed were quiet. They were thinking about the humans. A species everyone had forgotten had just saved the galaxy. What do we do now? Veed asked. Dr. Zix looked at all the advanced technology around them. Now, he said, we learn. The humans left us a great gift. It's time we used it. As the megaship flew back to the planet, Dr. Zix knew that everything had changed. The galaxy would never be the same again, and it was all thanks to some primitive old ships and the forgotten species that had built them. A year had passed since the great battle with the Void. The galaxy was a very different place now. Dr. Zix stood in front of the Galactic Council. The room was packed. Everyone wanted to hear about the latest discoveries from the human ships. Friends, Dr. Zix began, what we've learned from human technology is amazing. Their science, their art, their way of thinking. It's all incredible. He showed images on a big screen. There were pictures of new ships, new machines, and new discoveries. Humans didn't just make weapons, he said. They made tools to explore, to build, to heal. And now we can use these tools too. In the front row, Veed smiled. He remembered how they used to think the ships were junk. Now, everyone knew better. Professor Yolks stood up. Dr. Zix, I was wrong about the human ships. We all were. How can we make up for our mistake? Dr. Zix thought for a moment. We can honor the humans by using their gifts wisely. Let's explore the galaxy like they did. Let's be curious and brave like they were. The council agreed. They made a new plan. They would send ships to explore far parts of the galaxy, but not to conquer, to learn and make friends. After the meeting, Dr. Zix and Veed walked to the lab. The human ships were there, still amazing after all this time. It's hard to believe how much has changed, Veed said. Dr. Zix nodded. And it's all because of a species that died out long ago. They entered the main ship. The AI greeted them. Hello, friends. What shall we learn today? Dr. Zix smiled. Tell us more about human culture, their stories, their music, their dreams. As the AI began to speak, Dr. Zix and Veed listened in wonder. Humans had been so creative, so full of ideas. They learned about human books, filled with amazing stories. They heard human music, so different from anything in the galaxy now. They saw human art, colorful and full of feeling. Humans were so alive, Veed said. Everything they did was full of emotion. Dr. Zix agreed. That's why their technology is so special. It wasn't just about being clever. It was about having a vision, a dream of what could be. As days passed, more and more people came to learn about humans. Young aliens wanted to be explorers like humans. Artists tried to make things in human styles. Scientists studied human ideas to make new discoveries. One day, a young alien came to Dr. Zix. I want to be like the humans, she said. I want to do big things, to change the galaxy. Dr. Zix smiled. That's the best way to honor them, he said. To dream big, like they did. Years went by. The galaxy changed. New ships, based on human designs, explored far and wide. They met new species, made new friends, and everywhere they went, they shared stories of the amazing humans. The old human ships were put in a special museum. Millions came to see them every year. They weren't just old machines now. They were a symbol of what was possible when you dared to dream. One night, Dr. Zix stood looking at the stars. Veed joined him. "What are you thinking about?" Veed asked. Dr. Zix smiled. "I'm thinking about the humans. They're gone, but look what they left behind. A whole galaxy inspired by their spirit." Veed nodded. "It's amazing. Their species died out, but their ideas will live forever." As they watched, a new ship took off, heading for distant stars. It was built with human technology, flown by aliens who dreamed of adventure. Dr. Zix thought about how it all started, with some old ships that everyone thought were junk. Now, those ships had changed everything. The humans would be proud, he said. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, the spirit of humanity lived on. In every new discovery, every brave adventure, every big dream. The humans were gone, but their legacy would last forever.